Hi YouTube! Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Karina Geist. I'm a flute player. I go to Manus School of Music. And if you've noticed, the banner on my channel says flute and life, but I've been thoroughly neglecting the life part. So I wanted to come on here and do a little update, a little rambly video about my summer and what I have coming up next year, what I'm looking forward to, things I've noticed about music and motivation recently, all that. I don't know if anyone will watch, but it is therapeutic for me. Maybe a couple subscribers will watch, or I know my mom will watch, so we'll count that as a... Okay, sorry, I just reframed it. You can tell it's a very high-tech setup going on here. We have my tripod balanced on a very precarious setup, but I kept trying to get these pictures in the background because I really like them, but can't really see anyway. But I'll put in a little shot of them because these are some authentic New York street art. Anyway, this is a transitional year for me because I'm in the 4th year of my undergrad. And what is typical if you're in your undergrad and you want to go to grad school is to take auditions in the 2nd semester. So you submit all your applications, recordings, just like a normal college application, due on December 1st, and then if you pass pre-screening auditions, they'll invite you for a live audition in the 2nd semester, and then you find out from there if you get into any of them. So I've picked all schools on the East Coast, which is where I'm located now, just for logistics of traveling. So I want to talk about what schools I'm applying to and what I've done over this past summer to try and meet the teachers at some of these schools. So I'm applying to New England Conservatory, Carnegie Mellon School of Music in Pittsburgh, Yale School of Music, Eastman School of Music, which is in Rochester in upstate New York, and the other one is, can't remember, Peabody School of Music at Johns Hopkins University. So I wanted to meet the teachers because it's really important for them to remember your face. For my current undergrad, I met the teacher on a Zoom lesson because I applied during the wonderful, magical time of COVID. But anyway, it was really helpful for me to know her teaching style and for her to know my face and that I'm a good listener, and teachers really like when you're a quick learner, and I think they like when you have decent social skills. So that's what you're trying to demonstrate when you meet these teachers. I went to a week-long retreat with Carol Winsense from Juilliard, and she had a program called Creating Resonance, which was a week-long retreat at this folk art guild in upstate New York, sort of like playing flute on a farm, and you have lessons with faculty and things like that. So I had already met Carol previously, so this was just a good chance for me to remind her, like, hey, remember me? Then a week after that, I went to the Consummate Flutist program at Carnegie Mellon. This was very intense, a lot of flute. I was definitely needing a break by the end of it. It is a week long of masterclass. I think it was like 6 hours of stuff planned each day. I got to meet the flute professor from Carnegie Mellon, Alberto Almarza, and he seems super awesome to me. I really liked his personality, and I learned things probably every day. He seemed like an endless pit of knowledge. He had a couple suggestions about getting the low notes to sound better on my flute by physically pressing the head joint firmer to my lip, which I'd never heard before, but he gave me several tips like that where you try it and it never occurred to you, and you're like, oh, I think that definitely makes a big difference. Also, his students are pretty successful at winning auditions, and he of course has orchestral experience, so I think it would be a really good fit. That's the only campus I've been able to visit. Other than that, I've reached out to some of the other teachers to set up Zoom lessons or to see if I could visit the campus. I'm gonna visit New England Conservatory campus and meet the teacher there. I'm not gonna go to Eastman because it's in upstate New York and it's just one too many flights for me this year. And the teacher there doesn't do Zoom lessons, which I get. Zoom is tricky. I did have a Zoom lesson a week ago with the flute teacher from Peabody School of Music. I think it was good, like I said, focusing on hey, I have social skills, hey, I'm a quick learner, and you have an hour to show that. So it's a high pressure situation, but I think it's really worthwhile. So I'm glad that that's done before my school year, which is about to start. So that's what I'm thinking about in the future right now. I don't know if I'll get into any of these schools. You might have noticed I chose pretty difficult ones, but the thinking there is I want to go to grad school somewhere where I'm really excited about. And if I don't get in because I aimed too high, I would rather take a gap year and reassess than go someplace that I'm not super excited about. For my undergrad, I go to Manus, and I'm really happy with how that turned out. I've learned a lot from my teacher, and it's been crazy for me to learn how to live in New York after growing up in California. So that's all good, but I didn't have much of a choice as far as getting into other music schools and getting to choose between them. I like to think that's because of COVID year and people deferred or they took a gap year, and then so they had less openings. Maybe that's a kind thing that I'm thinking to myself to make myself feel better, but either way, I think that I've developed a ton as a musician in the past three and a half years. So I'd like to go someplace I'm really excited about, and if I'm way over my head, then I'm gonna take a gap year and maybe I'll reapply, maybe I'll do something different. I'm not sure. But it's a fun challenge for me right now to aim so high and to put my best foot forward by networking with these teachers. And I found a new flute last year, which has made a huge difference. I've been working really hard the past 4 years, and I'm making sure that I have really good auditions, pre-screening auditions as well. I'm just rambling here, thanks for listening. Anyway, I want to move on to how was my summer, and I notice I'm being very professional in these videos, so I'll try to be a bit more real because it's not all sunshine and rainbows. So this summer, after my 2 traveling things, one to Rochester and one to Pittsburgh, I came home to California for about 2 months-ish and lived with my parents like usual. And the main goal for the summer was to practice really hard and then record my pre-screening auditions at the end of summer, which I did. And I'm really happy with how the pre-screening videos turned out. I recorded about 5 pieces, and I'm gonna put them on my YouTube channel in a few months after they're already submitted, just so there's no funny business with, oh, why'd you put your auditions on social media? But I'm gonna post them, and I'm really excited to share them because I think it sounds really good with the recording engineer setup. Like, it makes such a big difference recording on whatever the heck technology he brings versus just my iPhone, which is what I usually do. So that was a treat to listen to that. And also I picked really difficult technical rep that was way above my skill level, maybe not way above, but a decent challenge for me, and putting together a whole piece on my own because it was over the summer and I didn't have lessons on it, and then working with a pianist all on my own, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'm quite happy with how it turned out. So I'm excited to share those. So anyway, the end result is good, and I'm really glad not to have to record anything new here in New York, because finding a place to record, finding a pianist, I think it would be way more expensive here. The thing in this magical plan that didn't really turn out was, oh, I'm gonna practice so hard every day because we're gonna train like an athlete and that's just all I'm gonna do. And it worked really well for about a week. I had a very meticulous schedule for how I was gonna manage practicing a ton without being burned out and having breaks here and here, and you wake up and you do however many hours of it. And that worked pretty well for the first week when I was really motivated, and I had a whole list of things that I was gonna practice differently since my 2 flute camp adventures, because you learn a lot, and now I finally had time to practice it. So that was really good for about a week, but then I got some serious burnout in the following weeks, which I don't really know what the answer is for that. What happened was I crashed hard and took a few days, and I usually beat myself up like, why can't you practice? This is your whole job. What do you mean you don't want to practice? You don't even have to go to work, and just, you're playing a flute. It shouldn't be painful. But when you do too much, there definitely is this painful feeling of like, please don't put me in this room and close the door and start the timer. I don't want to blow into the tube anymore, please. So I definitely got there, and once I recovered from that, I dialed back my expectations for how many hours I wanted to do each day. I still didn't hit that perfectly. It's very tempting for me to want to put a checkbox on my planner, and if you hit this many hours, you get to check it off. If you're a minute less, you don't. That's definitely me. That's my personality, and I didn't hit that goal. But I can say now, looking back on it, that I never gave up, and I haven't given up despite struggling with practice motivation for years now. I think that's just part of it. I hit my goals with 80% accuracy, maybe, my new realistic goals. And it's satisfying for me to see that I still got to have an end result, the pre-screening videos that I recorded, that I'm really, really happy with. And when I listen to them, I don't think, oh, if only you had practiced this many more hours, or if only you'd gotten 100%, this would sound better. I'm actually decently pleased with my pre-screening videos, and so it's nice to know that my efforts were enough, and it's not that I needed to suffer more to get something that I'm happy with. Part of my problem with the motivation over the summer, which this is not advice, this is just me rambling, is I have a hard time with the lack of structure. So school is really great because I have things I have to show up to at certain times that end at certain times, and other people are meeting me there for rehearsal, for lessons, all that. Suddenly when it's summer and I have a wide open schedule with nothing on it, it's just me being a drill sergeant trying to get myself to do things all day. And for me, it feels like, okay, here's my willpower, and now it's 10 a.m. and it's all gone because I had to tell myself to sit in this chair and not leave the room. Versus you show up to school, you can kind of half pay attention sometimes, and you don't have to use any willpower because you can't just get up and leave. It's a mixed bag because it definitely gets way too busy here during the school year, and I'll look back on this like, oh my god, why were you complaining about a whole day of doing nothing? I would love to do nothing. But I know that the truth about me is I don't do well with big open schedules. I don't do well because eventually I say screw it to whatever my list was, and then I end up just sitting there bored. And I don't do well with boredom. And I don't do well with taking people's advice for what to do when you're bored, because your mom will give you 1,000 ideas and none of them sound good, and you just sit there. So I did what I could to combat this boredom over the summer. I took up my old job from last summer, which is teaching piano and flute lessons. So there was one day where I went out of the house to a music studio to do that for a few hours, and then I had another day where some kids drove to my house and I did lessons there. And that was hard, but it reminded me of what it feels like to show up, do something for a bunch of hours, and then the feeling of satisfaction you get when it's over and you get to drive home and listen to music in your car. That kept me sane, and that is what I needed. I was teaching mostly piano lessons, mostly to little kids. Even though they're little kids, it kind of terrified me to show up and be in a room alone with them, because I didn't want them to be bored. I didn't want them to not get what I'm saying and then me not knowing how to pivot and to say it in another way. And mostly they just want to play games and be entertained. And at my school, it's not exactly like I've been learning how to play games in music for 4 years. Here it's cut and dry. It's like, we're gonna talk about technique, and that you don't do that with a little kid. So I was definitely nervous. I did my best to research how to make piano lessons fun, how to have games. And what I noticed was each lesson I kind of saw what do kids respond to, what doesn't work. I tried to teach some concepts that were way over the kid's head, and looking back it's kind of funny to think that I even attempted that. Like, one kid was playing a phrase on the piano, like da 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 da, and I tried to be all abstract, like, well, you know when someone plays something and it sounds really good, and then another person plays the same thing and all the notes are right, but it doesn't sound as special to you. That's because one is they're being really musical and they're leaning into certain notes. And where do you think this phrase goes? What's the most important note? So I tried to do that whole speech, and the kid just didn't understand. He's like, this note, they played a D, and the other one they played an E. I'm like, no. So there was some things like that where I realized this is the wrong audience. So each lesson that I did, I felt like I improved a lot at being a fun and also effective piano teacher. That was rewarding and I enjoyed that a lot. This also makes me feel better about the future because I know that teaching is a part of a musician's career if you want to make a living. And it's nice to know that I like teaching. Even though I was nervous to show up and teach these kids because I thought I'm an imposter and I don't know what I'm doing, I was able to learn quickly and then rely on my knowledge, which you kind of don't realize what you've learned over the years until you have the chance to teach it to someone who knows none of it. You forget that, oh, people don't know rhythm, people don't know reading music, they don't have any intuition about this, and I actually have something here that I've been practicing that I forgot is a unique skill, and I can share this now. So having a little bit of structure with that job helped me. The other thing that helped was I had a first rehearsal with the pianist who was going to help me record my pre-screening auditions. We played the first piece and I was like, oh, music is fun. It's easy to forget when you're just practicing and you're playing the same thing over and over again and you don't hear the whole picture because these pieces are flute and piano. You're missing so much of the story when you don't have the piano part there. And of course, you can study the piano part and try to hear it in your head, but there's nothing as fun as just, okay, we got the band together and now we're playing. So that helped me remember, okay, it's not a personal failing that I'm struggling a bit with motivation on practicing because I've been missing the fun part. And this is really fun. So that was helpful for me to remember why I do this in the first place. That was also helpful because I've been trying to write my essays for my applications. And by trying to write, I mean making a big long list of what days I'm gonna do what parts of the essay and then doing none of it ever and procrastinating harder than I've ever in my life. But on the plane ride coming back to New York, I did write a bit of one essay, and it was supposed to be a personal statement of why you want to go to grad school, what your plans are. And I centered it around the theme of I want to be in the Nutcracker pit. And the idea was I wanted to write about how much I love the Nutcracker because my family and I have always gone there every Christmas. And the best part is the music because you can take it with you and you can listen to it all year. You can listen to it in the middle of summer, which I do because the Nutcracker is good any time of the year. And I wrote about how I like to filter all my decisions through, does this take me closer to the pit? I mean that in a specific way of it's a bucket list item for me to play in the Nutcracker pit, but I also mean that in a broader way, which is my decision should be taking me closer to what I love about music. So it's not just the pit, it's playing with the pianist, it's performing, it's the type of playing music that makes you feel alive and makes all of the work in the practice room worth it. And that was my goal over the summer, to take myself closer to the pit, to take myself closer to the stage. And that's my goal going forward. That's my goal with grad school. I want to have 2 more years to get more input from teachers and work on perfecting my skills before I go out into the real world. And I am fearful about what this year is going to bring and what next year is going to look like. I really like structure, so I'm hoping to get into a good program that I can be really excited about and have that structure for 2 more years. And there's part of me that is afraid of what happens if I don't get in and I have to reassess. And it makes me sad that this is my 4th year at Manus and I can't imagine not walking to school anymore on the specific route that I take to school. I can't imagine not living in this apartment. I can't imagine not going to my gym around the corner or my grocery store. There is definitely something about being here and the independence I have that I've come to take for granted and I really love and enjoy. And it would make me really sad to think that this is ending and I don't have somewhere exciting to go to. Logically, I know I'm gonna end on my feet. I'm gonna end up somewhere and it's my choice where I want to go. But it's just scary not knowing what's coming. And I'm trying not to let that bother me too much, and I'm just staying focused with what can I do this year to get into grad school. And if I don't get into grad school, I'm just gonna make good decisions that take me closer to the pit. So that was my life update about the summer and what's coming up next for me. There's some exciting things, there's some scary things, there's a lot of travel and auditions. I'm excited to post my pre-screening videos in a couple months. If I have any other interesting performances, I'll record and probably put those up too. Please let me know if you have any specific things that you would be interested in me making a video about. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed my ramblings. Yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Bye.